Hello everyone, what's up? Welcome back to Hacking with Ken. So today we're going to be starting with the basics of Linux. Now I made few videos on basics of Linux in my native language, but not everyone can understand it. So I want to make sure everyone can learn Linux and can use Linux. So basically I'm going to restart it, basically the whole basis of Linux, where you will learn Linux from the very beginning. So this is my Linux environment. I installed this Kali Linux as my main operating system, but we're not going to be testing on that. I've installed separately a new system, CentOS, and we're going to be doing all our testing on this operating system. So let's get this started. So basically, let me just go into the full screen mode, and then we can just pick up the users. Here we go. We have Kencypher here. Let's log in. If you don't understand any of the stuff, just go along with it. You will understand everything as we go further in this course. Now there is one thing I won't be covering: installation of Linux, because there are like thousands of distros of Linux out there, and every distro has its own installation procedures. Like Kali do installation in different way, Red Hat Linux do installation in different way, Debian do in different way. But to understand how Linux are installed, you need to just understand few things. I'm gonna tell you right now. You need to have a hard drive. Okay, you need to make partitions for your root and for your boot, where the boot files will be installed. Now those who don't know what boot files are the one that helps your operating system to boot or to run initially into your system. So if boot files cannot be located, your operating system will not be loaded. Okay, so basically, and the second thing you need is a user, and then few requirements, and then there you go. These are things that you need to have in order to install any Linux distro. But most of the Linux come with manuals. You can look up the internet for tutorials, and nowadays, like most of the Linux, every Linux comes with GUI installation, except for Arch and Black Arch. They all most of the Linux comes with just GUI interface installation. You just click next, and this. So most of the Linux are easy to install than Windows. Like, to be honest, you just need to install once, and not like Windows where you need to personalize things, and Windows can take like 30 to 40 minutes for task, for simplified task, for settings, for services, and those stuff. Linux just take like 15 to 10 minutes, and there you go, you have the system. So here we are in my CentOS. Basically, while we're in CentOS, let me give you a little history of Linux. So basically, Linux was invented by Linus Torvalds, or Trovels. Sorry Linus if I don't pronounce your name correct. So basically, Linux was invented by him, so in 1991, and then Linux became like really powerful. He didn't invent the whole Linux operating system, he invented the Linux kernel. Now kernel is a core part of operating system, which helps operating system or softwares to communicate with the hardware. Now kernel sits between you and the hardware, so basically all you need is kernel. So he made Linux kernel, he developed it, and therefore it's been in use nowadays. Now most of the devices, most of the servers, most of the things in the world uses Linux kernel. Your Android is based on Linux kernel, and I think a lot of other devices like routers, switches, they all have operating system, and all their OS are based on Linux kernels. So basically, Linux has become like major part in our world, to be honest. Like if you want to do software development, Linux is the best choice for coding, like, to be honest. And I'm saying it by experience. I saw most of people coding for Python and having library errors and dependency errors and then conflicting, but I didn't have any of that because Linux provides a pre-coded environment for you where all the settings are configured. You don't need to do anything. You just need to install few things if you want to get started with the Python. I mean, Python is already installed. You just need to write a code and then run it. All of the things are really installed. Installation is easy, pretty easy. Everything is like, you know, really amazing. So enough about bragging about Linux and why you need to learn Linux, because it's been in use nowadays. Most of the web servers are deployed on Linux basically, so most of the websites running use Linux, and like everything use Linux. So let's get started. First of all, this is what a normal Linux interface would look like to you. We are using CentOS, which is Red Hat based. Now there is something you will hear Linux distros or distributions. There are like major distributions: Debian, Arch, and Red Hat. So these are like the major distribution I've heard in my life, and from these distribution different OS came, like Ubuntu, which is based on Debian distribution, then Kali Linux, which is based on Debian, then Black Arch, which is based on Arch, Manjaro, which is based on Arch, Fedora, CentOS, which are based on Red Hat. So basically this tree comes on and on and on, so you can't really stop it. So first of all, this is what interface look like. You have the home folder here. So this is what home folder, and it has you know, files and stuff, the documents, desktop, downloads, which you see in normal Windows folder, right? So like pictures, if you download something, it will go in this download directory, and if you have something on your desktop, it will come here. So if you have other hard drives, you can access by going here, other locations. So and there you go. So you can just go there by accessing here. So I opened it 2 times, sorry for that. Then you have trash, which is also known as recycle bin. So basically this is pretty much. Then you have application menu here, in which there are a lot of applications you can use, but I have not installed a lot of applications. But if you install like a lot of applications, you will see bunch of other applications here. I see only 2, 3 in every basically way. So as you can see, we have office category, we have internet, sound and video. In sound and video, it's really amazing. I get that question a lot. Can you watch movies on Linux? Of course. I use VLC, or like there was this one media player, Haruna media player, I think. I use these 2 media players to watch movies on Linux, and as Linux is my main operating system, I get bored too, and I use Spotify, I use torrenting stuff, I watch movies on this. So this is basically I do on Linux. So Linux is pretty cool operating system in my opinion. If you want to learn it, it will really help you a lot in the future. So let's get started. First of all, today we'll be covering a few things. In this we will go to the utilities, I think system tools, and then we will open what is known as, or what you will see, terminal. So terminal, it really comes in handy. This is where we will perform most of our tasks, so be prepared to use that. This is where we'll run the commands that will interact direct with kernel, and then we can use hardware resources to do our task. So basically this is terminal. This is known as bash. I think this is bash terminal. You have other shells like ZSH, corn shell, C shell, and there is this one shell, fish shell. So there are a lot of shells depending upon operating systems. Now most of systems use bash as default, so but you can install other shells in your system too if you're comfortable. Each shell has its own benefits and disadvantages, so you can choose the one which you like the most. So First of all, we have here terminal. So I will type the ls command, which is the most common command in Linux operating system, like most. And this is even used in Mac. And one thing, I'm going away from the topic just to say one thing. I used Mac for a while, and there's one thing I found common in Linux and Mac was that commands. Most of the commands Mac used were Linux commands like ls, cd, and like most of other commands, cat, I think cat 2, I need to test it more. But the point is, I think Linux is everywhere. Even Mac use Linux kernel. I'm not sure about that. But I think Mac use Linux kernels. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, let's type ls. Now ls is the most basic command in your Linux system. Like it's the most basic command. First of all, when I get into any Linux system, I type ls. Just one thing. First things first, ls. I know why this happens. I just type ls and that's it. Most of the people using Linux do that. They just open a terminal, type ls and do nothing. Like ls is the magical command to start off. So we have ls. ls is for list files. Now it will list files and folders which are in your current working directory. Like I am in this, I don't know what this call it. I'm gonna call it some slash. I don't know what this symbol is called in English. I know in my native language, but I don't know what it's called in English. So basically, I'm just gonna say some kind of weird slash. Now this represents your home. This represents your home. Let's say your home. You have some address in your home. Let's say you live in 5B and some town and then some. So this slash represents a user home. Now we are logged in as Kencypher, so this represents Kencypher home. Okay, so this represents Kencypher home, which means we are in Kencypher's home directory. Now as we opened home directory from desktop, we all found that it has desktop, documents, downloads, music and all the files. So as we typed ls, we can see all the directories here. If it has some files, we will see there too. So ls is the most basic command. Now let's explore a little more. What is this? Kencypher @CentOS. Now what is this? You're probably wondering, it's CentOS operating system name or whatever. No. It's not operating system name. It is host name basically. And I can change that host name. Host name is basically your name on the network. So if my device is I can name it like anything. I named it Mayhem. My original laptop has host name Mayhem, and its identification on my private network is Mayhem. It is the identification on private network, remember that. So CentOS is host name and the Kencypher is your user, or it can be any user you will create. So it's Kencypher @CentOS. So it means Kencypher in CentOS 7 means Kencypher is in CentOS operating system. So, and then we have the weird slash I told you, which represents a user's home directory, and this means that we're in normal user shell. We are not in admins right now. So we will study about admins and those stuff later. So now, as we covered that, there is one little thing here. If I need to access other user, how can I do it if this is here? So if this reverse weird slash represents my home directory, what about other users? You can access them too, but not without this weird slash. This weird slash is only for you. When you type this weird slash, it will take you back to your place, only to your place. Okay. So it's like the GPS where you type this that blue icon on Google Maps, and it will no matter if you're exploring the North Pole, it will just take you back to your home location. So this is like that. So We learned ls. Now time to move on to next command, which is called pwd, also known as print working directory. Now, how can I know in which directory I'm in which folder I'm in? How can I know? Sometimes I can know. Sometimes I have to know that in which folder I'm in. I need to go back. I need to go to different folder. But I need to find out first that in which directory I am right now. So pwd tells you in which directory you are right now. So by typing pwd and press enter, it will print /home/Kencypher. So right, I'm in /home/Kencypher. I'm in user home directory. So we'll discuss the whole Linux directory structure in the upcoming video, in the second video, because directory structure in Linux is really important to learn. And if you don't know directory structure, you cannot use Linux. To use Linux, you need to know directory structure. It's directory structure. It's basically pretty simple. And Linux directory structure, in my opinion, it's pretty easy to learn than Windows. Like Windows is like spreads everywhere, you know, just program files here, Windows here, and then something's here. But in Linux, it's not like that. Okay, Linux is how can I say, organized, hierarchical, or hierarchical. I don't know exact word, but you get the point. It's like tree, which start at root, and then we go on to trees, and then we go on to branches, and then we go on to leaves and stuff. So it's like that. So then we have cd command. Let's type some command which we can use to find if we are connected to internet or not. Now these commands, in my opinion, are really comes in handy. Ifconfig, if I type that, it will tell me if I'm connected to internet or not. Now how can you find that? Basically, if you're using on virtual, you will see this ANPOS3. If you have IP here in inet, that means you have internet connectivity. If you don't have, that means no, you don't have. If config command shows you all the network adapters you have and all information about network in your system, basically all network adapters you have, IPs and stuff. So basically, then we have loopback. If you don't know loopback, I'll suggest study it, loopback, because this is not a networking course. So then we have Verber 0, and here we are. Now screen sometimes can get a little messy, right? Like you don't want to scroll up, you just want to clear that out. You want to start from the top. You just want to clear everything, delete everything from the terminal and start afresh new. Linux has a right way for you. You can use clear command or Control L command. So basically it's up to your choice. It's dealer's choice. I'm going to type clear because sometimes Control L don't work in some systems, but I watched it work in many systems, but I'm not so sure what kind of Linux you will use. So clear is the best. It will clear the screen for you, and there you go, voila. Now if you want to explore like previous history, you can also, but you can type clear and it will take you from the top, start as fresh new. Now you can type again, and then we can start typing again commands. But I think these 3 commands are enough for today. We discussed a lot about Linux, where it's used, and this is only day 1. Now hold your horses. This is gonna be a rough ride. We're gonna be configuring servers here. So I bet, and you guys should install Linux, or or if you have on your main system, you can just practice on that. But I will suggest install Linux using VirtualBox or some other method. All Linux commands will work the same. You just need some, all Linux commands work the same because all have same kernel, but may be different in installing packages. So there we may find conflict, but I will teach you both how to use apt and yum to install both packages. So we'll find that. So I think that's enough for today, and let me just exit this screen here. So I think this is enough for today. So I will see you guys later, and hope when we will get to the second video you will already have installed Linux. So goodbye.